It's so difficult to reflect on the darkest times in your life. Sometimes you got to do that. I was fucked up. I hit rock bottom, but I make no excuses. My behavior on that video is inexcusable. I take full responsibility for my actions in that video. I'm disgusted. I was disgusted then when I did it. I'm disgusted now. I went and I sought out professional help. I had to go into therapy, go into rehab. I had to ask God for his mercy and grace. I'm so sorry. But I'm committed to be a better man each and every day. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm truly sorry.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Lindsay Unfiltered, and today will be the continuation of the video for Cassie and P. Diddy's lawsuit reading. This is a continuation of our playlist, the A to Z Scandals. We are covering every letter of the alphabet scandal-wise, so make sure to check out that playlist. We've had a lot of fun with it, guys. And I want to thank everybody for checking in with the series, checking in with the previous series that we did on the Quiet on Set documentary. I really, really appreciate that, everyone. I do want to let you guys know that I appreciate that. I think we did over 1,000 views in the past 28 days, closer to 2,000 views in the last 28 days. So for that, I want to thank you all. And I want to incline you guys, if you like the content, please hit that subscribe button, like, and share. Sharing is caring. I am focusing on a lot of sharing right now. I would like if you engage in the comments and if you liked, but subscriptions and shares is what I am looking for right now to grow the channel. And to skyrocket, guys, because we can do it. We can definitely do it. With no further ado, let's get into this juicy lawsuit. And you guys see this pop filter I've had for years, because I'm always that person who uses a pop filter like this. I need to learn proper pop filter etiquette, knowing that you don't have to speak directly into the pop filter for it to do its job. You can just talk and the pop filter basically filters out. If you guys didn't know what this thing is for, it filters out the B's and the P's and those like plosive sounds, so it makes your voice sound way clearer. Without further ado, guys, let's get into this lawsuit. Okay, guys, my hair's blurred out, but that's okay. I'm gonna sit back and I'm going to continue where we left off on the first part. Okay, so we were on 3, which was Mr. Combs exerting control over Miss Ventura's career and personal life. Okay. And as I stated earlier, we are going to read the next 10 pages of this lawsuit. And then in the last video, we're going to read the last 15 pages and reflect. That might be a longer one, but we're going to do the 10 here, okay? 49. From the very start of their relationship, Mr. Combs exerted his power and influence over Miss Ventura. The dynamic was fueled by their nearly 20-year age difference, as well as their relative positions in the entertainment industry. With Mr. Combs considered a music mogul and Miss Ventura at the very start of her career as an entertainer. Mr. Combs' aggressive and demanding approach to those he worked with made it impossible for anyone to challenge him, and Miss Ventura soon learned that Mr. Combs insisted on blind loyalty from everyone in his inner circle.
Although Miss Ventura had saved up some earnings from a young modeling career, Mr. Combs' ostentatious display of wealth was intimidating to her. Mr. Combs paid for things with wads of cash and would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura, "Don't worry about money. I have money." Mr. Combs expensed lavish vacations for him, and Miss Ventura purchased a car for her, paid for her apartment, and provided her with extensive amounts of designer clothing. Around 2008 or 2009, Mr. Combs began to rent an apartment for Manhattan for Miss Ventura. The apartment was within walking distance of Mr. Combs' New York residence. He first showed Miss Ventura the apartment by bringing her there along with her parents. Miss Ventura's parents were skeptical of the mogul's displays of wealth, but proud of their daughter's newfound success. Around 2010, Mr. Combs similarly paid for an apartment for Miss Ventura in Los Angeles, which was located about 5 minutes away from Mr. Combs' residence. He paid for many of her apartments in California and also purchased a Jaguar for her around 2013 or 2014. All aspects of Miss Ventura's life were controlled by either Mr. Combs or his management company. Every event Miss Ventura attended, from the travel and the makeup and the clothing, was paid for directly by Mr. Combs and his affiliated company. Compounding this all-encompassing intrusion into her life, Mr. Combs secured his control over the young and impressionable Miss Ventura by introducing her into a drug-fueled lifestyle that kept her complacent and compliant. Mr. Combs first introduced Miss Ventura to opiates around 2008 and would often have pills and other drugs out in the open like candy. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs has been addicted to prescription painkillers and took ecstasy frequently. Now that is no joke. I heard the pain pill addiction, the oxycodone addiction, it's no joke. To the point where people need the feeling of the pain pill so bad that they will take as many as possible to achieve the feeling that they want to achieve, even if it leads up to overdose. You know, their doctor, when your doctor prescribes you a medication, they generally say on the pill bottle, only take one in the morning, one in the afternoon, whatever the prescription says. Some of these people are taking 9 in the morning, 9 in the afternoon. Like, it's unreal how high their tolerance is. And the addiction is, I hear, like, very hard to beat. In certain instances, they will give you some of what you're hooked on in rehab just because your body can't live without it in withdrawal. So addiction, huge, huge, huge deal. And if P. Diddy was addicted to anything at any point, he hid it or is hiding it well. I never saw a P. Diddy that I thought, oh God, he's strung out. I never saw a P. Diddy like that. Has anybody ever seen a P. Diddy that just looked like strung out on something? Not me. He always looked like healthy weight and all of that. So I don't know. I mean, It's easy to hide certain addictions, and maybe he was able to. At first, Miss Ventura was given the prescriptions that Mr. Combs received from a doctor in Miami, Florida. Eventually, when Mr. Combs exhausted his supply of pills, he demanded, wow, that Miss Ventura procure prescriptions from this Miami doctor in her own name. That's illegal. There's so much wrong with that. There's so much wrong with that. I mean, I don't even know how to speak on that, because how do you procure prescriptions from a doctor for pain pills of that caliber? How do you just procure that if you're not in pain? If you didn't have a surgery? Poor people are not getting pills like that for no reason. But the elite and the people with wads of cash can get any medication, any drug they want by not any doctor. Some doctors have ethics and morals, but you have doctors that cater to certain people. And they say, hey, if you got enough money in your bank account, I'll give you whatever prescription you want. Just as long as you don't exhaust the supply and get me written up. Okay? Get a friend. Ask NBA young boy. So it's not on the doctor who knows that these people aren't sick. These 17 people that have come in for the same knee scrape. It's on the person with the addiction that they're feeding. It's not on the doctor, it's on them. Okay. All right. Okay. Mr. Combs also became deeply involved in Miss Ventura's personal life, with his personal staff attending to Miss Ventura's day-to-day travel and other needs, including medical care. On multiple occasions, Mr. Combs had Miss Ventura's personal medical records sent directly to his email address, HIPAA. For instance, when Miss Ventura began experiencing memory loss, potentially due to excessive drug use and or head injuries caused by Mr. Combs' feeding, as described below, her MRI results were provided directly to Mr. Combs. Mr. Combs also repeatedly arranged for staff to drive Miss Ventura to certain doctor's appointments. So she wouldn't say, oh, I'm being beaten. Like, is that why he had his staff accompany her so they could be like, what did she say? I wouldn't be surprised if the doctors were part of Bad Boy. Like, they definitely have enough money to have a whole fleet of Bad Boy doctors. So honestly, Cassie didn't have anybody looking out for her, and that's sad. Even those women on TV talking about they were her friends, y'all are sad. Y'all are sad. I know y'all were thinking, he's a very powerful man, and he might. I'm sorry. I am so sorry for saying that, but out of all of the Americans in that industry, and all of the Americans that saw something, that are just now coming out, security guards, bodyguards, friends, people in the studio with Wale. Like, why nobody knew this? None of the people out here buying the music of Bad Boy knew this. Nobody out here behind the glass ceiling of Hollywood stardom knew this, but y'all all coming out, oh yeah, well, I did over here. Oh, so now you're just coming to say you did over here something? Who was protecting that girl? Shame on you. Shame on you. Shame on you. No, not one man, not one woman spoke up and said, look, y'all don't find that eerie? No one was in Cassie's corner. She never owned bodyguards. She never owned doctors. She never owned family. In this way, Mr. Combs exerted ownership over Miss Ventura. As another example of the ways in which he manipulated Miss Ventura and ensured obedience, early on in their relationship, he asked Miss Ventura what she called her grandfather. When Miss Ventura said that she referred to her grandfather as Pop Pop, Mr. Combs perversely insisted that Miss Ventura referred to him with that nickname. Sick. Okay, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura's relationship becomes violent and abusive. What started as a whirlwind of celebrity meetings and drug and alcohol fueled parties quickly turned frightening and violent. Miss Ventura was also exposed to the intense violence that pervaded Mr. Combs' rise to fame. For example, on one occasion, when Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura were using drugs together in his home, one of his security staff barged in and announced that Suge Knight, a longtime rival of Mr. Combs, was spotted at Mel's Drive-In Diner in Los Angeles. Specific. Mr. Combs started to get dressed, retrieved multiple guns from a safe, and ran out of his home to where he believed Mr. Knight was dining. Miss Ventura became terrified and began to cry. On at least 2 occasions, Mr. Combs demanded that Miss Ventura hold Mr. Combs' gun in her purse. Miss Ventura had no familiarity with guns and was petrified that's not funny, was petrified that the firearm would accidentally go off in her purse. There was no clear reason why Mr. Combs required her to hold his guns, except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was violent, powerful, and dangerous. Okay, the reason why I chuckled a little bit was because hold my gun in your purse. I just thought about Carisha. I just thought that's so city girl. Like, and Cassie is not a city girl. Like, what kind of woman were you looking for? This is a small town girl, a sweet woman. You know, she was a sweet woman just put into the wrong spot. And, you know, a sweet woman, a talented woman, just that got messed over. Well, now, if you're talking about Carisha, she's going to hold her gun in her purse. That's city girl behavior. Like, that's what they do. And the fact that he asked her to hold it, I think it was more of like, I don't want it on my person. I don't want to tuck it on me or something like that. I think it was more of like that, like, oh, hold it there so they won't see it coming. So Suge won't see this coming. Like, that type of thing. But still, to put her in the middle of dangerous, life-threatening situations time and time again, if it wasn't with the drug usage, if it wasn't with the violence, if it wasn't with the pow-pows, time and time again, you're putting her in harm's way. Time and time again. If it's not by putting your hands on her, you're trying to start shit with Suge Knight. With Cassie right there. Don't go start no shit with. Are you serious? If you want to go start shit with Suge Knight, go start shit with Suge Knight with your dudes, your boys. Don't involve Cassie in that. Cassie, that's not Cassie's beef. Cassie, that's not Cassie's beef. That beef is between you and him. Don't and hold my no. That's not hers. Over the next decade, multiple times each year, Mr. Combs would violently beat Miss Ventura, leaving bruises on her body. After every instance in which he beat Miss Ventura, Mr. Combs uses money and power to orchestrate extensive efforts to hide the evidence of his abuse, including hiding Miss Ventura in hotels for days at a time to let her bruises heal. In one such instance, After a party with Jay-Z, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura repeatedly in an Escalade, including by kicking and hitting her. He forced her out of a vehicle on Fifth Avenue in New York City. She was eventually able to hail a cab and get to her apartment in Manhattan, where she cried in fear, realizing there was no one she could tell about what had happened at the hands of this incredibly powerful man. She spent the subsequent 3 days hiding in her apartment. In January 2009, after Mr. Combs had learned that Mr. Ventura had spoke to another music manager at a party in Los Angeles, he became enraged. She had hoped that speaking to this manager would allow her to further grow her career and that Mr. Combs would be happy for her. But instead, he became extremely angry and pulled her out of the club. We know from that video that he does pull, snatch, drag, scald. He does all that. He has a habit of snatching her and dragging her like that. So the pulling, the snatching, all of that, I believe. All of it. Snatching, dragging, punching, kicking, stomping. I believe all of that because I saw it. I saw it physically. And he admitted to it. The pulling, yes. In the car leaving the club, Mr. Combs beat Miss Ventura, pushing her into a corner of the vehicle and stomping on her face. I don't think people even stomp on their enemies' faces in a fight. You stomp on someone's face if you're trying to, like, unalive them. Mr. Combs' security staff, Roger Bonds, tried to stop the beating, but was unable to de-escalate the situation. When the car arrived at Mr. Combs' residence, Miss Ventura attempted to run away, but Mr. Combs followed her and proceeded to again kick her in the face. Ooh, okay. Miss Ventura was bleeding profusely and was ushered into Mr. Combs' home, where she began to throw up from the violent assault. Upon recognizing the damage he had done and the physical evidence of the abuse, he panicked and forced his staff to bring Miss Ventura to a hotel suite at the London Hotel in Los Angeles, where she was required to stay for weeks. During this stay, as her injuries from the beating healed, Miss Ventura began to fully recognize that Mr. Combs' tremendously loyal network not only knew about and witnessed his assault, but also these witnesses were not willing to do anything meaningful to stop Mr. Combs' behavior. She recognized that she was powerless, and that reporting Mr. Combs to the authorities would not alter Mr. Combs' status or influence, but would merely give Mr. Combs another excuse to hurt her. While in the hotel, she asked to go home to her parents. Mr. Combs wouldn't let her leave. She lied to her mother when asked about an online gossip forum that reported the assault. Mr. Combs proceeded to instruct his assistant to purchase excessive amounts of gifts for Miss Ventura, which were delivered to the hotel room where she remained trapped. Miss Ventura was terrified, isolated, and unable to see a pathway out of Mr. Combs' abusive hold on her life. She found herself becoming numb to the abuse she was experiencing and became entirely beholden to Mr. Combs, the man. She began to blindly follow his instructions out of fear of again being on the receiving end of a vicious beating. By Mr. Combs' own admission, his relationship with Miss Ventura was like Bobby and Whitney, a clear acknowledgement of the unequal power dynamic and excessive domestic violence that permeated their relationship. From the outside looking in, Miss Ventura had heard others refer to her relationship with Mr. Combs as akin to Ike and Tina, her volatile and abusive partner, who also owned her label and therefore held her future success in his hands, had fully exerted control over every aspect in her life. Mr. Combs forces Miss Ventura into trafficking. Within a few months of beginning a romantic relationship with a 40-year-old Mr. Combs, the 22-year-old Miss Ventura felt beholden to his whims and demands. While in New York City, Mr. Combs told the Miss Ventura that he wanted to engage in a fantasy of his called voyeurism. I know what that is, and that I can't go into details. Okay, Mr. Combs said that it would turn him on if he saw Miss Ventura with another stick. All right. Hey, hey, it's a kink at this point, okay? I don't pass judgment, but okay. The first time Mr. Combs hired a man and bought the man, hired a man and brought the man into his home in Los Angeles. The man, Mr. Combs, and Miss Ventura wore masquerade masks and ingested drugs. Oh no. Mr. Combs directed Miss Ventura to perform acts with his man while Mr. Combs watched them. He had fun by himself while he directed Miss Ventura and the man to do specific acts. The entire encounter lasted multiple days. Mr. Combs began to call the arrangement a freak off or FO. He would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura at random moments that he wanted an FO, and Miss Ventura would eventually expect it to facilitate the location and the hiring of male gigolos. At certain points during Miss Ventura and Mr. Combs' relationship, he would insist on a FO weekly. Mr. Combs would repeatedly tell Miss Ventura that this practice was our thing and our secret. FOs would take place in hotel suites like the Trump International Hotel. Former President Donald Trump International Hotel. Y'all have an FO then. Okay. In Columbus Circle. Okay. Le Tamatage. I can't even say it, it's so rich. Beverly Hills. The London Hotel in Los Angeles. The Intercontinental Century City. The Intercontinental Atlanta. The Intercontinental New York City. Okay, we know which one y'all liked. The Intercontinental. That was a favorite. The One Hotel in New York and in Miami, the Mandarin Oriental Hotel in New York in Miami, the Fontainebleau in Miami, the Beverly Hills Hotel, and Shutters on the Beach in Los Angeles. Not really good promo there, but on one occasion around 2013, Mr. Combs had an FO set up at the Intercontinental Hotel in New York City, after which he was charged with tens and thousands of dollars in damages by the hotel. Upon information and belief, Mr. Combs' chief of staff, Tony Fletcher, paid the invoice charged by the hotel. Why was there tens of thousands of dollars worth of damage? Can we elaborate on that? During an FO, why was there so much damage? Miss Ventura was eventually instructed to use websites and escort services to find male workers to participate in the FOs. Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura to search for large black apparatuses on the website. Sometimes Mr. Combs would pay to fly male gigolos to his location, including to multiple cities in the United States as well as abroad. He required Miss Ventura and his staff to help him make these arrangements. That's sex trafficking. That's straight up like, so they weren't just like walking down the strip or like on Backpage. You were flying them around. Mr. Combs' assistants would help to set up the FOs, including by setting up the hotel suites with baby oil and Astroglide. And I'm not going to even make jokes because it's not a joking manner. It's not a joking manner. Like, who was the assistant at the time to go and be like, wait a minute, guys, do you have the baby oil? Do you have the act? I want to know who the assistant was for Sean Diddy Combs back in 2013. I got to talk to you. Mr. Combs always supplied Miss Ventura and the gigolo with copious amounts of drugs before and during the episode. Miss Ventura was given ecstasy, Coca-Cola, GHB, ketamine, weed, and alcohol in excessive amounts during freak-offs, which allowed her to disassociate during these horrific encounters. It became commonplace to get IV fluids in the days after an FO to recover from the excessive substances pushed upon her. Miss Ventura was required to dress up in lingerie for an FO, and Mr. Combs insisted she wear white nail polish to contrast her nails with the skin of the black men he hired to have relations with her. He said every week. They said every week. How did they not overdose and it's a miracle she's alive. She took all of that ecstasy, Coca-Cola, GHB, ketamine, weed, and alcohol in excessive amounts, and probably other stuff mixed in. Yeah, she deserves it. She deserves every penny. She deserves every penny. She deserves half of what you're worth. And that's just because you got kids to take care of. During the FO, Mr. Combs would instruct Miss Ventura to pour excessive amounts of oil over herself. Well, thanks to the assistant, Mr. Combs would then instruct Miss Ventura and the gigolos to speak to each other. And then would specifically tell Miss Ventura where to touch the gigolos. Mr. Combs would say things like, "Ooh, grab that big black stick. Ooh," and ask her, "How does it feel?" That is disturbing. As he directed her to perform for him. During the FOs, in addition to directing Miss Ventura and playing by himself, Mr. Combs would use his phone, laptop, and tablet to film Miss Ventura having relations with a hired gigolo. He treated the forced encounter as a personal art project, adjusting the candles he used for lighting to frame the videos he took. While Miss Ventura quickly deleted any photographs or video of any acts if they were taken on her phone, Mr. Combs repeatedly made clear that he retained many videos of Miss Ventura during FOs. Even if when she deleted the videos, Mr. Combs would tell Miss Ventura he was able to recover deleted videos from her devices. On one occasion, he sat next to her on the flight and made her watch a video she had thought she deleted, reinforcing her inability to escape the immense power he had over her. Mr. Combs would pay the male gigolos a few $1,000s in cash for their services. During some FOs, Mr. Combs would become extremely intoxicated and would hit Miss Ventura in front of the male gigolos. Miss Ventura was repulsed by Mr. Combs' demands, including physical beating and recognizing his incredible power and incredible temper. Miss Ventura became petrified of her partner and boss and felt that she cannot say no. He would even present her with lavish gifts prior to or in the middle of efforts, seemingly acknowledging the ways in which these forced sexual encounters constituted work for Miss Ventura and that he needed to compensate her for her work. At one point, he had given her so many designer bracelets for FOs, and immediately following his brutal beatings, she felt that she was shackled by his presence. Frequently, her anxiety before an FO would become so great that she would become physically ill, sometimes to the point of vomiting. While kneeling over the toilet, Mr. Combs would shame her into performing for him, eventually forcing her to get up and proceed with the encounter. She knew firsthand that telling Mr. Combs that she did not want to engage in FOs was met with anger and violence. In addition, any suggestion that Miss Ventura would refuse the FO or otherwise report Mr. Combs' abuse was met with ultimatums by Mr. Combs, who would say that Miss Ventura would not go to the police because she had a lot to lose. Who's got a lot to lose now? Around August 2015, for example, in the middle of a surprise birthday dinner for Miss Ventura's 29th birthday, Mr. Combs insisted that Miss Ventura leave the party and go to a hotel for an FO. It's my birthday. When she expressed that she did not want to go, Mr. Combs had Miss Ventura cornered by his security staff in order to force her to leave them. Wow. It's unbelievable. After this FO, Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura went back into the hotel room that Miss Ventura was staying in, where some of Miss Ventura's friends were already in and out. Mr. Combs was severely intoxicated, and at one point during the night, he picked up one of Miss Ventura's friends like a child and dangled the friend over the balcony of the 17th floor hotel suite. Miss Ventura and her friends were scared by Mr. Combs' erratic behavior, but Miss Ventura was heavily sedated because of the drugs that she took to participate in the FO. Therefore, she was unable to respond to Mr. Combs' terrifying behavior. So he's dangling her friends off of balconies, and he allegedly dangled Wale off of the balcony too. So I've heard more than one person say that he takes people on high buildings and to intimidate them, just holds them off balconies. I wonder if he's ever let anybody fall. The FOs became work for Miss Ventura, and despite her protestation, Mr. Combs insisted on these intricately staged and forced sexual encounters between Miss Ventura and various, we don't even know. It could be more than I don't even want to speak on that because I feel like that's callous. But just imagine. He said they wrote up every week copious amounts of drugs. Miss Ventura tries to escape Mr. Combs' abuse. She's trying to get out now. At any time, she tried to create distance between her and Mr. Combs. He used his network to find her and convince her to return back to his abuse. On multiple occasions, Mr. Combs sent his employees to lure Miss Ventura back. In 2011, during a rough patch in Mr. Combs and Miss Ventura's relationship, Miss Ventura had a brief relationship with musician Kid Cudi. When Mr. Combs returned from a trip, he demanded another FO of Miss Ventura. She acquiesced. During this FO, Mr. Combs found Miss Ventura's phone and found emails between her and Kid Cudi. Mr. Combs became enraged and proceeded to place a manual corkscrew between his fingers and lunged at Miss Ventura. Miss Ventura ran away to stay at Kid Cudi's home to escape Mr. Combs' wrath. Thereafter, one of Mr. Combs' staff members told Miss Ventura that he needed to just talk to Mr. Combs, even though Mr. Combs was enraged. Feeling like she could not escape Mr. Combs and his network of enforcers, Miss Ventura returned to Mr. Combs. He hit her several times and kicked her in the back as she tried to run out the door. She went to her parents' home in Connecticut, where her mother took pictures of the bruises Mr. Combs had left on Miss Ventura's body. In February 2012, during Paris Fashion Week, Mr. Combs told Miss Ventura that she was going to blow up Kid Cudi's car, and that he wanted to ensure that Kid Cudi was home with his friends when this happened. Around that time, Kid Cudi's car exploded in his driveway. Well, that is huge, right? That's huge. And we still have 15 pages left that we're going to read on the next part. The last part is going to be the last 15 pages of this lawsuit. So we basically covered how the beating started, the gifts, the freak off, her feeling like there was no way out, there was no one that she could go to or run to or tell. So she felt like stuck there. She felt stuck there. He did everything for her. She had a place to stay, all the lavish things she had. He kept her intoxicated most of their relationship. Basically like chained to his side. And beat her, stomped in her face, made her feel as if she had to sleep with allegedly multiple men that had probably slept with multiple other women and men. And now she's trying to get away and he's not letting her. What in the hell, right? So guys, I need you guys to come back for the next goddamn installment. Because this is fucking, I honestly don't know what to say. This lawsuit is unfiltered as real shit. We would have never known this was going on. Ever known this shit was going on. We didn't have the slightest inkling. So just think about how much stuff we don't know. Think about that. And then start shouting. Guys, I need you to like, comment, subscribe, share, share, subscribe, share, subscribe, share, subscribe. I'm gonna share this. I'm gonna like my own video, but I can only do so much. You know, I can make a nice thumbnail, I can share it, but guys, if you watch the video, engage in it some type of way for me, please. If it means taking a second to like it, if it means taking a second to put an emoji in the comments, if it means taking a second to share it anywhere, I don't care. Twitter, Snapchat, Facebook, anywhere. If you engage with the video, you like the video, please stick around. I appreciate you guys so much. This has been Lindsay Unfiltered, and this is deep. Thank you guys so much. Bye.